What we want to do is make us like our little friend here. Because as you can see, this marmot behind the bars is really hungry. He is trying to eat the bars away to get to the food. And what we want as PC is to act like that. So we want to spot companies where we want to have the eagerness of this marmot and get it. And what do you need for that? Is one, you need hunger. I mean, I think this marmot or beaver or just discussed this morning what this animal is, but willing to marmot, I think. Apparently didn't eat for a long time, so that's one. And the second thing is that I think he's seeing something that's good. He's seeing the good food. And you know what we would like is to prepare you to do the cooking right for yourself, and also to have the right ingredients. So see this as a cooking course. And you're all chiefs, and we are helping you to be the best chief. To give you some idea who P Capital is, a short introduction is I'm Johan van Mil. I founded P Capital 8 years ago as an entrepreneur. I've had a few companies before and worked with VCs. Also didn't work with VCs, learned a lot from them, but it's good. My partner, Stefan Barry, here, has a background in corporate finance and also managed another investment fund. Our cameraman is Arthur, he's the analyst. So he's really all the analysis of the business plans and the workarounds. He does a study, and by the way, he does his thesis on marketplaces. And I assume, who is a marketplace in the room, by the way? Marketplace or platform? So you know what to speak of, that's good. And the beauty of our team is Helene. She's not here right now, but Helene is in the board of advice of it. So we are a small team, and the reason why we are a small team as VCs is that actually all the VCs are very small, because what we do is we talk a lot with people, we see what the plans are, and then we work with specialists who can do the due diligence, do the analysis, etc. So that's why VCs are normally a very small team. We have a fund of 12 million euro. Arthur, can you help me out? Sorry. And we raised a 12 million euro fund with people who started companies as this. So all the people who funded or managed these companies put their money in our fund, that we invested, of course, ourselves also in. And it means that we are backed by seasoned entrepreneurs who are eager to help the companies where we invest in, because they put the money where their mouth is, they invest in it, but they also help us. So, and that's what we also learned is, when you really want to make companies succeed, and when we invest in a company, then you need money, of course, but also the help to speed up the company. They need really, experience and help. So if you want to hire, the best reselling guy for a software company like France, we just discussed, then you need really the best guy. Then it's good that we're the guy. We need the best PR company in France, and we know how to do it. So that's one. Arthur, can you help me? Because it's not working. We invested in a few companies. As you can see, as P Capital, as you can see, there are 10 logos here. We closed last week our final investment, but it hasn't been published yet. But it's a fintech company specializing in financial technology, financial market. As you can see, we had from the 10 companies we published, we did 3 exits. And 2 of them were to listed companies, so to stock listed companies. So you can imagine that the multiplier for us as investors is very good for this company. One of them is being bought back by the management, that's also happening. And we seem to have a very good focus on marketplaces and on platforms. Because of those 10 companies, as you can see, there are 7 of them are marketplaces. And that's what we have a pretty good track record in. What we currently do with our new fund is, besides marketplaces, because that's of course still our focus, we also invest in software companies, fintech, education, technology and data. These are the most important markets we currently are working on. Our last investment, what we did is, you see on the top, the right under, that's Studopie. In the Netherlands known as Studeer Snel, and that's a platform for students where they can find thesis, all the exams, etc. It's a subscription-based model rolled out now, currently being rolled out to the rest of the world. we do with Sudoku is to help them to, accelerate their growth, to help them find the right people, to have the right organization to scale up. Realize, does your company need funding? Because we see a lot of companies coming to us who actually don't need funding. And here you see a little map which helps you decide whether you need funding or not. For example, if you have a company with low capital needed to get to break even, and also, as you see, low scalability of the business. For example, a consultancy business where you have people and you can scale up less easy than a marketplace, for example, then less capital is required. And then we think it's better to bootstrap the company. Where on the other hand, if you have a marketplace where you need a dual-sided supply and demand and marketing and the technology to get with and also stay ahead of the company, of the competition, then you really need the money to scale up. So depending on the business, that's what you need. What we also learned, I had a meeting yesterday with very nice software companies, that a lot of software companies are, break even or near break even or even making profit. And then also we have a lot of discussion, do you need money, investment money, VC money to make a company grow fast? So that's also depending on your ambition as a founder, because we, of course, as P Capital, we only want to invest in companies which really have the ambition to have a worldwide domination. And then, if you don't have that, then don't take any VC money, because then you're not aligned in the goals that we as a VC have in terms of turnover of our money. So I think it's very good for you to realize is where you are as a company. The first phase is the problem solution phase. You have an idea, you see a problem, and you have an idea to solve that problem. And it's still in your head, and you're still thinking, and you're currently making some plans. You didn't build anything yet. You made some sketches probably, etc. The second phase is the MVP phase, and in that phase you're making, for example, a web presence. Very easy, low entry, not completely technical, but really to prove what's happening in the market and to prove that you can solve that problem. It's MVP phase. The third phase is, as we call it, product market fit. So in that phase, the MVP, in most of the cases, has been rebuilt a few times. And you see that if you put €1 in, that you will get more than that euro back. And that you see also that your client is really willing to pay for it, and that the churn is not very high, that the lifetime value is high, and that acquisition costs are low, etc. So that's the third phase. And the fourth phase is the growth phase, where you really prove in one market, which can be a market like the Netherlands, for example, and also another market. And you really want to scale up the market. Well, depending on the phase that you are in, it needs a different kind of funding. Because, we as a VC, we typically invest in this phase and in this phase. In this phase, you need different skills and you need different help and you need a different approach that we as a VC can find. And that's also the reason why we thought it might be handy to give you this insight. Because depending on the phase, for example, if you only have a problem or solution, then it might be good if you cannot fund your company yourself. I mean, that's the best way to do it. Is to attract some angel investors. Because angel investors, I will come back to it, they are more emotional investor than rational investors. So I think that's good, and also very based on personal situation. The second phase, as you can see it, the MVP phase, then it's good to be, for example, in an accelerator, like the Rockstar, or one of boot camps, etc., or with an incubator. Because in that phase, it's good to have some people around you, because you're building an MVP to learn from the people around you and to get your MVP right. And pivot a few times to get to the right phase. And then, in this case, for example, that we as a VC, we would really be on the numbers. And that's your phase not good enough, because you have to find your model. It's like when you're looking for a relationship, you can ask the girl you meet at the bar after a few minutes, after giving her first beer, if she want to marry you. I think it's better to get to know her and have a few drinks and meet each other, etc. So That's why the product market fit depends also another investor type. So in this phase, what we typically do as an investor, and what we typically look for is, what kind of money, what kind of help do you need to accelerate your growth? And the fourth phase, as you can see here, we also are active in that. You can imagine that Capability, we are the first investor of Capability, Europe's fastest growing company. That's typically in that phase, we help them really to expand international, help them to attract the right VCs for following rounds, and help them to go to, as we call it, the liquidity event, so sell the company eventually. So that's a completely different phase, and depending on the phase, you have different investors and different help you can get to those investors and get to the next phase. There's also a reason why we publish this landscape. Who knows this landscape, by the way? We come with an update. I think Arthur will finish it hopefully today. With update today or Monday again. And that's the reason why we also made this landscape to help startups to get to the right funding. Because if you have an idea and you get to these guys, if you have the right profile and you know the right people, you might have a cup of coffee here. But actually, to be honest with you, we think it's a waste of time for you as a startup. So if you have a problem or if you have a problem or a solution for that problem, it's better to talk to the people who are really can help you in that phase, but also have the money, but also the capabilities of helping. And that's the reason why we publish it. To give you some idea, we currently, this is version 7, and we updated version 8. I think each month there are 5 to 10 changes on this map. So you see also in the VC landscape, you see a lot of new entrants, funds of being closed. Rightfully, the question you ask is how far are you in the fund? Because that's really important, because you can imagine that some of the funds are raising money now, so getting money from investors, but are not capable and willing to invest. And you can spend a lot of time again as a founder to talk to these guys, but I as a former startup founder don't think it's the time you should spend on that. So that's why the reason. I think for you it's also good to realize is where do we look for as a funding partner, as a VC? What do you need in a different phase? Well, in phase 1, if you have a problem and solution, then you need what we call a man the plan. I'll go back to it, what it means, but that's what you really need. So you can focus, for example, on all the different kind of things, but what you really need to get funded is a good plan and a good man. The second phase you need proof. The third phase you need really the capability and the proof of execution. And the fourth phase is you need scaling. The man and the plan. Like we just mentioned, if you look who is funding this phase, these are mainly angel investors and also some accelerators. But really the angel investors are most important. Who is funded by an angel investor? Okay, 3 people are. I don't know if you recognize, but a lot of angel investors, also what we learned in companies where we invested, where a lot of times an angel investor is sitting, invested already in, is a typical angel investor has to be in love with the idea that you present. So the idea is actually the most important thing. Does he believe in that thing? Will he use it himself? That's the most important thing. And the second one is that he has to like you. Yeah. It's based on a personal relationship. You know each other, you work with each other, you have a mutual friends who knows both of you each other, but it's very, very close by. So in this phase, if you want to attract angel funding, get those 2 things in place. And that means, for example, that even if you don't have an MVP, build a less MVP to convince the angel investor how it looks like and how it works, with sketches. And also, and we all know that, if you have a co-founder who doesn't communicate very well and who isn't everyone's friend, keep him away during that talks, because the angel is really focused on the personal relationship and the personal friendship. So if you do that right, then you will get angel funding. What we see often in this phase also is that angel investors invest in a company and then, at a rough estimation, for example, we evaluate the company on €1 million or €500,000 or whatever, and it's often, most of the time, it's not based on any numbers. And when we look into that plan, we often see that the valuation is too high, and in that case, your angel, with the high investment you got previously, can be in the way for a following on round. So also realize that in this phase, you can go from a valuation, you can go this, but then you need to go this. What's better in our way is to do this, this, and this. That's where you need help with angel funds, because they're very emotional, they're not very rational. In most of the cases, they're very smart guys, often entrepreneurs, etc. So you can have a lot of help with them, but it's also good for you to realize how they look at their business. They don't look at much at numbers. Of course, they want to see a business plan, they want to see some Excel, etc. But that's not what they always look for. The second phase is the proof phase. Then you really need proof to attract the next phase of investment, which are the accelerators, etc., and the incubators. Well, in this phase, one of the most important things that we see is that the founding team is not complete. And what we define as the ideal founding team is we call it the hacker, the hustler, and the hipster. I assume that you know what a hacker is, tech guy. The hustler, I think, seems also very logical, the commercial guy. But the hipster is a very important one, and often we are lacking him also. And the hipster is a typical guy who works from the product view, who is really the product owner, is often a design guy, loves working with UI, UX, etc. And he loves that the product is really, really well. And what we see often with the companies we look into is that one of these guys is missing. And either we see that one of the guys is missing, or we see a bunch of friends who started their own company. And what we learned also with friends starting a company is friends are very good in life. We see often, and there are examples, and there are a lot of examples, but we see often that the friends working together is not in the next phase of your company not a very good choice, because it can be rough having your own company and having to start it and to lay off people and to make cruel decisions, etc. So it's good, I think, to have your complete founding team, but not only with friends. I hope I don't disappoint a lot of people here. So we look in this phase, an accelerator, etc. They really look in, how is the team? Is the team complete? So have you your own hacker on board? Can you have your own technology and not hire somebody to create your technology? And of course, you have your MVP in place, and that means that you are more or less live, but that you learn, that you get some data and get some learnings about how it works. The next phase, and that's where we are really interested in, is the execution phase. So then, in that case, still the team is in place, but the team has some experience in working together. They've had some conflicts, because as we all know, startups have some arguments together. They argue about different things. Sometimes there are changes in the team, but then it's a number game. So then we look at what numbers come from that company, and you can have numbers, because we invest typically in companies which have revenue, which are live, which are not in their MVP phase anymore. So they pivoted a few times before we invest. That's very normal for us. But then you have the real numbers where we can derive the value. And the numbers can be, of course, top line revenue, but also, going back to users, to usage, to churn, to the different numbers that you have. So I think what's very good for you is that as a startup, especially the first two, so the previous phase, is that you start building up numbers. And everything that you do is that you can learn from data, because the best companies we invest in, for example, Katawiki, the guys are completely, really focused on the numbers. So that's why we pivoted the business model, I think 4 or 5 times before we found the auction model, because we learned that the previous business models were not that interesting. Because that's the phase really of scaling up. Then you are active in one market, and that could also be a market, for example, that you have a software company working with plumbers, and then you want to go also to carpenters, for example. But that also can mean that you work in geography. In that way, in that phase, it's very important to have a cut ratio which is in line with the benchmarks which you can find when you look online. So depending on the business model, you have a ratio between the costs of an acquisition and the lifetime value, and also the churn. So look up what the numbers are and learn from it, because there's a lot of things published out there. And the second one is that you really know in this phase what is needed to expand to other markets. And what we learn a lot is that in this phase, if you know, that's for example Sudoku, I think it's a good example. That guy came to us, I think last July. We were just live with our fund, and they came to us and they had really funny. They had 4 A4s. They didn't have any presentation. They only showed us in a line. This is our growth in users, and this is our growth in documents, and this is our tipping point. And this is what it costs us. And they did this, so they are live as Studeer Snel, the document sharing platform in the Netherlands. But they're also live in 5 other geographies, and they had that numbers of those geographies. And they could prove us very easily that if you put in money in, that's easy to scale up to other countries and other universities. So, and they are young guys, eager, but they're really keen on the data. And you know, when they would have approached us without that data, without that knowledge, we would never fund that company. But with that data and with that proof, it was for us easy to calculate and also to check whether it was a good investment for us. So prove that you can scale up.